Today, as you can tell, we're going to be talking about the whole phrase, you don't look autistic. Um, I think all of us who are openly autistic have heard this phrase, or like, I can't tell that you're autistic, or some other variant of that statement at least once in our lives. Um, there seems to be this image inside people's heads as to what autism looks like, whether it be physical or behavioral. Uh, my autistic purple world. I love your comics. Thank you. But yeah, some people expect an autistic person to behave a certain way, and when we don't, they're taken aback. But there is this belief that autism does affect the physical appearance too. Well, I guess, yeah, Shimmer, you're not openly autistic. I guess you don't have to be openly autistic to have heard this. Um, I guess it's just you have to tell somebody you're autistic, whether you're open about it or not, and then you get that. Uh, it's annoying. Um, but yeah, it's like there is this bizarre belief that autism can affect the physical appearance. So, personal story. When I was like 12, this is just before I was misdiagnosed as bipolar. Um, I was taken to this doctor to help figure out what was going on with me. I was having emotional breakdowns and mood swings, and we wanted to find out why. I didn't fully pay attention to the doctor during the appointment. Remember, I was 12. So I can't remember everything that was said. But what I distinctly remember is him talking about the shape of my face and that it could mean something. I can't remember what he said it could mean. He used a bunch of big words. But needless to say, my parents never took me to see him again. But it seems that some people have this belief that neurodivergences can change someone's appearance, similar to how Down syndrome does. Um, there have been some recent studies done that have shown that there may be some facial differences, but I'm not sure how much I trust these studies, since one study only had boys, because heaven forbid anyone who isn't a boy get, studied when it comes to autism. And the other only had white kids who were mostly boys. And the sample sizes were always pretty small, often under 100, which is commonly seen as the minimum needed for good results. So, no adults, no people of color, and mostly boys. So, I'm going to take what those research papers said with a grain of salt. You don't have to, but I'm just not convinced. I've seen plenty of autistic people, and we all look pretty different to me. Um, well, Finos, there was a time in the doctor's office, and the one woman asked under her breath to my mother if I was autistic while I was masking. Weird. Hi, Dominic. Glad you could make it. Um, but yeah, now, while some people who say you don't look autistic, um, they're talking about physically not looking physically looking autistic. I think more people are talking about behavior. When they say you don't look autistic, they mean your behavior doesn't look autistic. You don't behave like someone I would think is autistic. Like I discussed in my last live stream, there are autistic stereotypes that people have in their minds. And most of them come from media depictions of autistic characters. Autism to them looks like Rain Man or Sheldon Cooper or something like that. The fact that some autistic people can maintain eye contact or make small talk or smile and generally take part in conversation is a foreign concept to these people. They're unaware of what masking is. I know a kid who's diagnosed autistic at the age of 4. When he was older, he was seen by another doctor who said he wasn't autistic simply because he could maintain eye contact, smile, and take part in the conversation. Thankfully, his mother knew enough about autism to not listen to this doctor. But that should be shocking. Even some doctors trained to work with autistic people don't seem to understand what autistic people are capable of. They don't understand masking. And it's just it's honestly like interesting what people trained to deal with, I guess work with, shouldn't say deal with, but work with autistic people, what they are and are not taught. But yeah, oh, Kat, my brother that I have lived with my entire life still doesn't believe I have autism despite having been officially diagnosed a few years ago. Yeah, I remember having to deal with someone who, even though I was diagnosed, wouldn't believe me. And it's because, they have this view of autism in their mind and you don't fit it. And it's just, I remember having this argument with a woman in the comments. I'd used the term autistic in my post, in my comic, and she was like, oh, that's not PC. You should say person with autism. And I'm like, excuse me? And I'm, having this back and forth, and it turns out, like, she is professionally trained to work with autistic people. And she was taught, that saying the word autistic is wrong. They used to say person with autism for all autistic people. Like, it's interesting what people are taught. My autistic purple world, yeah. I was said you don't have autism because you have empathy. Yeah. Oh my goodness. I could rant about that, but I'm not going to right now. Oh, Justin. My parents never think that autism doesn't really affect me when trying to justify hiding my diagnosis from me. Yeah. No, I do not condone parents hiding their diagnosis from their children. But yeah, so we've been talking about masking, and that's what a lot of us are doing when we're, quote unquote, not looking autistic. How I act around people and how I act alone are very different. And it just seems odd to me that neurotypicals don't understand this, since they too do it too, in a sense. To quote the 1994 Jim Carrey movie, The Mask, we all wear masks, metaphorically speaking. Now, autistic masking and neurotypical masking is different, but at least comparing them can be a good starting point for helping neurotypicals understand us a bit more. Sort of like a nice jumping off point. Autistics mask to hide our autism. Like, us, sorry. Autistics mask autistics masking to hide their autism is much different than neurotypicals masking to fit in with corporate culture at work, to avoid getting fired, or to fit in with a specific social group. I know for me, masking is involuntary. The on off switch is out of my reach. My brain controls that, and as anyone who has read my comic knows, my brain can be a bit of a jerk. Honestly, I feel like the topic of masking isn't well known enough outside of the autistic community. I've never seen it addressed in media depicting an autistic character. If there are any examples of autistic masking being addressed in media, please let me know. And, it's just. Yes, Shimmer. Face masks are important right now. Please wear face masks.
Well, just to follow up on the topic of neurotypicals masking and face masks, my God, wear that face mask or I will have to crush you. No, I'm kidding. I just have to deal with students who try to do everything they can to not wear it. In any case, I can give an example of neurotypical masking that is very blatant. It's the teacher. Trust me, every single teacher puts on a mask. It's probably pretty obvious for a lot of people, especially if you catch a teacher on a bad day and they're just slumped on their desk. It's always trying to stay positive, always trying to be upbeat, always trying to keep things motivated, and the cracks still slip. That whole persona that a lot of teachers put off is a form of neurotypical masking that's clearer than most because everyone knows the term teacher voice. Everyone knows the term teacher positivity or that sort of thing where it almost seems fake that somebody can be that positive. Or, wait, why did they go from being such a smiley person to snapping at me? Like, that is the most clear neurotypical form of masking that people can see and can identify because it seems so different than how people interact with each other in normal life. Just as a way to look at how neurotypicals do it. Because I can tell you, there are days when I absolutely do not have anything but a mask on my face because I'm just like, students, I don't want to, like, you're too much right now. I don't want to. I don't want to. Please, down, down, down. Oh, no, I gotta keep smiling. Good job, Jimmy.
Another form of neurotypical masking would be retail workers. Okay, I need to address a comment because it kind of like made my eyes bug out. My autistic purple world. Another thing that was said was you don't have autism because you wouldn't let your a dog die in a cold winter. What? I do not understand that. We're not heartless people. Like, my cat is my child. I would do anything to protect him. But, yeah, it's just... Yeah. Of course, one situation that I think is the most common with people who say you don't look autistic. So often it's said like a compliment. It's not them pointing their finger at you and going, liar! Sometimes it is, but I think most of the time with like friends and acquaintances, it's more like they're saying like, "Aw, it's okay, I still like you," or like, "Wow, you must be one of the good ones." I can only assume that in their mind they think they're saying something nice. Because why would you say that to a friend? Um, you know, I understand there are some people who will say, like, you don't look autistic and say it accusingly. But when they're not, why else would they say it? Is it just a blunt statement? I think there are people, like, so many people who've said it to me, they say it with like a kind smile on their face, and it just seems like they're saying it like a compliment. You know, I've just been, on friendly terms with this person, and then they say that. Um, they don't realize how offensive it can actually be to us. I'm wondering if it's because they have this idea, they think autistic equals bad, so they have to reassure us that we're not obviously autistic. You know, don't worry, it's okay. Sort of like when you get like a stain on your shirt and your friend will say, it's not that bad, no one will notice. You know, autism isn't a stain on my shirt that I want to hide. It's a beautiful deco that I want to display to the world. Sadly, I don't think many people realize this. Thanks to organizations like Autism Speaks, people are told to see autism as something to be ashamed of. That we autistics aren't proud of our autistic selves. I wouldn't be who I am without my autism. And I don't want to be anyone else. I remember talking about being autistic and someone saying, but you're more than your autism. And this was a good friend of mine, and I just wanted to scream. It's like, of course I'm more than my autism. Of course. Justin, yeah, feels so much backhanded yeah. Feels like so many backhanded compliments in my life. Yeah. Yeah, it feels like a backhanded compliment. It really does. But yeah, it it's like this person thought that because I was so open about being autistic, I was making it my entire being. Because I was so open and obviously proud of my autism, they were weirded out. So often people see autism as something to be hidden away, that when it isn't, you know, like when it isn't hidden away, when we're open about it, they see it as too much, you know. But yeah, it's sort of like they're just, I guess they're just so used to people um, always hiding it away. It's sort of like you either are so autistic that it can't be mistaken, or you're not autistic at all. So that when people who they don't realize are autistic are very open and showy about our autism because it's part of who they are, it's sort of like they feel like you're making it the core of your identity, like you know what I mean. um Shimmer, autistic is actively used as an insult regularly at school, so kind of makes sense. It's wrong but makes sense. Yeah. I've heard that people use the term autistic as sort of, yeah, like the new R slur. And well, Fenos, I agree. Don't even get me started on the R slur. But yeah, is just that it, being 34, I'm not in the classroom. I don't, you know, so I'm not part of that culture where, kids will use it as an insult. And like for me, since I'm like away from that, I hear that it is used as a slur, and I'm like thinking, oh, why don't we, take it back, sort of like people did with the word queer. That used to be used as an insult. Um, and now it's like displayed proudly. Sorry, one second.
Sorry, I distracted.
Yeah, sorry about that. I'm back. Um, but yeah, is uh, but yeah, is just sort of with oh my gosh, I lost my train of thought. I am so sorry. But yeah, with people feeling like you're making autism your entire personality, but you're more than your autism. This actually reminds me of a time back in the 90s when being openly gay was still frowned on, and when anyone was openly and proudly gay, they would be seen as making it their entire personality, because a part of them that was expected to remain hidden was no longer hidden. People had trouble seeing any other part of them. And that's sort of like with, people who don't, we don't hide away the fact that we're autistic. And I talk about being autistic a lot. Oh my gosh, I go on for hours. Um, so the fact that I don't hide it, there are some people who have trouble seeing any other part of me. And honestly, that's a them problem. That's not a me problem. That's a them problem. Ugh. I think the most tiring people who say you don't look autistic are those who will say that and then get irritated when your autistic traits come out. They'll like do that compliment sort of thing, like, "Oh, you don't look autistic," when you're masking. But the second you start stimming or become overwhelmed or something like that, they complain. Thankfully, nowadays, my social group currently consists of either neurodivergent or disabled people or people who up and left their lives behind to move to China. Trust me, you need to be pretty open-minded and accepting if you're going to survive in a foreign country. I also don't have to deal with, oh geez. Okay, so one thing I love about living here, I don't have to deal with random strangers since most of them avoid me since I'm a foreigner and they assume that I can't speak Chinese, which to be fair is correct. I know like probably less than 50 words. People will go out of their way to not have to interact with me. And let me tell you, it is fantastic. No random stranger on the bus starting a discussion with me. No one in the grocery store trying to partake in small talk. I love it. But, sorry. Anyways, let's get away from that tangent. Back on track. But yeah, you have these people who feel like they should reward you for not acting autistic, but then will reprimand you the moment you do act autistic. These people can be exhausting. Because I know with me, when I find out that they'll berate me for daring to not hide my autism, I will push myself beyond my limit to make sure I don't act autistic. If I can't avoid them, I hate confrontation. So I will willfully put myself in harm's way to avoid it. Online, if I get a nasty comment, I can deal with that with zero issue. it rarely phases me. I've gotten some nasty comments and just been like, okay. It's just, I don't know, online, it feels different. So for me, it's just like, I can just deal with it. And honestly, I think that's why I am able to continue to do this, because if you're a creator online, if you're a person online, if you exist online, you're going to get nasty comments. And I have gotten some really nasty comments, but I can honestly just sort of shrug it off. But if it's in person, I can't handle it. I buckle. It's why I'd suck at debating. I've had people try and debate me, and I'm like, yeah, but, you know, and this thing, and it's like, I can't do it. Of course, masking beyond my capacity almost always leads to a meltdown. I'm at an age now that people who push me to that, I just cut out of my life if possible. If not possible, I just do my best to avoid them. Hello, Cameron. Um, but yeah, I know that I've told people about my masking, and I think the response that I hate the most is just be yourself. What these people don't realize is that growing up, mostly from my teen years as well as into my 20s, being myself would often get me negative feedback. That's true, Kat. Online people can hide themselves behind usernames and such, but in person they can't. Yeah. There's that wall there. There's that barrier. That's so true. Nick, I agree. It's okay to cut toxic people from your life. I have done it and my life has only improved. And I want to make this clear for some people, because some people may not realize this. It is okay to cut toxic people from your life, even if they're family, even if it's a parent. If you can and you want to, you can do that. Just cut them out of your life. I know for me, I had a friend, I was friends with this person for like 20 years. And cutting them, it was like there were so many times I'm like, oh, I don't want to be friends with this person anymore, but I couldn't cut them out. I was so dependent on them. And they did that purposely. And it was so tough to cut them out, but with I could only do it with the help of my partner. You know, is I couldn't do it alone. I needed that support because it was just too hard to do it on my own. You know. But anyways, it is back to topic at hand. So like as a kid, I don't really remember masking that much. It wasn't until like I was in my teens, sort of junior high, 12, 13, that I really started noticing sort of the harassment people would give me for my autistic behavior. I didn't know it was autistic behavior at the time, but I knew I was different. Um, oh yeah, Kat. I've been trying for years to find my own place to live away from my toxic brother, but it's difficult with rent prices being so high and I'm on disability. I feel you. I used to be on disability, and it's just sort of like it's sort of like people who are in abusive relationships, or have this toxic family member and they can't get away for financial reasons. And that is just so common. Is just This is something that living in poverty is so much more than just not being able to afford certain things. It's also not being able to afford your safety. And I could go on for a while about that, but another day. Um, but yeah, starting in junior high, grade 7, age 12, uh, that's when I started masking. And it became so ingrained in me that now I can't control it. I've tried being myself and it often turned out badly. I have vivid memories of times where I was just being myself and I got bullied, you know, like in school, like not just by other students and not just by my own friends, but teachers as well. I'm sure many of you can relate. I remember one time I was doing a presentation, and when, um, well, Fitness, are you asking if I'm sick? Or are you asking somebody else? Um, but yeah, is essentially I was doing a presentation. When I did public speaking, I'd always get super, super nervous. So I would like rock side to side. I'd shift my weight from foot to foot. And then I noticed the teacher started laughing. And then the class started laughing. And I stopped and I looked and I was so confused. And the teacher was just like, "You're rocking side to side." And I felt so embarrassed and so ashamed. And I, from then on, I would do my best not to rock side to side when public speaking, doing a presentation or anything. You know, I had to stop my stimming. I am not sick. I don't think so. I don't know. I do have like I can feel a little bit of phlegm in my throat, but I think that's just because like I just woke up recently.
Well, also, if you think about it, sometimes when you feel heavy emotions, you tend to clear your throat more.
Yeah, and like yeah, being emotional can do things to your voice, and yeah, this topic is a very personal one to me. Probably to all of you. Um, well, Fenos, do teachers just not like us? I think it's less that teachers don't like us because I've met some amazing teachers. I am married to an amazing teacher, but it just so happens like you get um certain people who like that's the thing is like how do I put it? Um it depends on the teacher. It depends on who they are and how they were trained and how they were raised. Because that's the thing. It's like you're going to get people who don't like us. And some of those people just happen to be teachers. That's honestly how I feel. Because most of my teachers were great. You know. So I think it's just sort of you get certain people who don't like us acting differently becoming teachers. Um, but um, do 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 do. So when it comes to masking, there are very few people who I can actually drop my mask around because they're the only ones I feel safe being maskless around. Um, uh, Basically, for some people, it's like if I had them over at my place, I can only have them around for so long because I have to mask around them. And then there are some people I can have over for days because I don't have to mask around them. Being around them is amazing and it's not tiring. Um, but yeah, is people will say that it's best to be real and that masking hides your true self. But what they don't understand is that we don't mask to hide our true selves. We mask to protect ourselves. It's a defense mechanism built up through years and years of being attacked and mocked and disciplined for being our true selves. I heard this a lot growing up in the 90s about, just be yourself. And, I was really, really pushed, when I was growing up. And it's just like the realization of, well, if I do that, bad things will happen to me, you know. And it's just sort of, I know the sentiment is more like for people who they they want to fit in with a certain crowd, and so they'll pretend to be something they're not. And I understand that's who the sentiment is more directed towards. Like, don't do something you're uncomfortable with just to impress people. But it's just that for some of us, not being ourselves, masking, is our only choice. This is the big difference between autistic masking and neurotypical masking. Is for autistic people, it is a defense mechanism. It's to protect ourselves. It's not to fit in. It's not so we act in a way that our job requires us to act. It's armor. You know. Um, but not only is masking exhausting, but it adds to our social anxiety. I remember in my late teens and early 20s having friends, great friends, inviting me out to have fun, and I'd have to turn them down and not be able to accurately explain why. Back then, masking wasn't a term I'd ever heard. I didn't even really learn what masking was until a few years ago. So I couldn't really find the right words to tell them why I didn't want to go out beyond, I don't really like going out, which wasn't entirely true. I do like hanging out with people, at least for a little while, but I often need to tap out before everyone else. And in the past, I was too scared to tap out early because I didn't know how to explain why I had to. I didn't really know what was going on inside my head. It was just sort of like it wasn't that I was tired. Like, I was mentally fatigued, but my body wasn't tired. I wasn't sleepy. I wasn't annoyed. I didn't want to get away from them because of something they had done. So it's like I didn't have the right words. And this is why it's so important to have these words out there, like masking and autistic burnout and the like, because it helps people be able to accurately describe what they're feeling, but also the people they're describing it to understand. Because if I, back then, you know, 14, 15 years ago, if I had said to my friends, you know, sorry, I can't hang out with you, I'm too tired to mask, and I don't want autistic burnout, I would have been talking a foreign language to them. But the more people have this language and the more people know this language, it makes talking easier. It's like how with like gender and sexuality, we're getting this like for me personally, I've never felt like a girl. I've never felt like a woman. But when I learned what non-binary was, it was like, oh, that's what's going on, just sort of like just having that language available, you know, and is just if we have these words available. It's like with Elliot Page coming out as trans. He didn't have to do this whole explanation on what it was to be trans. He didn't have to go into this whole spiel on, well, see, this is what it is, this is what it means, this is what, all this stuff. All he had to say was, hi, I'm trans, these are my pronouns, this is my name. It's just, with this language being common knowledge, it makes it so much easier for people. And it's just, with language to help autistic people, the more we get it out, the easier it will be for people. I know it's helped me. I'm terrible at describing what I'm feeling. I'm the kind of person who thinks in pictures, which is why I draw instead of write. So having to describe something is hard enough for me, even when I do have the right words for it. Part of why I don't like the phrase, you don't look autistic, is the same reason why I don't like the term high-functioning autistic. It feels like I'm stuck in a paradox. Too normal to be autistic, but too autistic to be normal. Too normal for people to realize I'm autistic, but once my autistic traits are seen, I'm too autistic for people to handle. I've had people just stop talking to me before. We'll hang out, I'll think we had fun, and then I'll never hear from them again. It really hurts. But it's all too common for us. My hope is that autism acceptance increases the less, as autism acceptance increases, the less people have to mask and hide their autism. The phrase the phrase "you don't look autistic" just dies. Oh no, Churrito, you're late again. I'm so sorry. Justin, I might be non-binary. I don't know. That's okay. It takes time. You don't need to know right this second. Honestly, it took me a little while to figure it out. It wasn't like I learned what non-binary was and was like, bam, I know I'm non-binary. It takes time. You need to figure it out. Just take time and be patient with yourself. But yeah, it's just like, when it comes to me, like yeah, Justin, it's fine to have the pronouns he, him. You can be non-binary and use, binary pronouns. That's totally fine. If that's something you're worried about, it's all good. Um, I don't like being called they or it. I don't think anyone likes being called it. But yeah, is you don't have to like not every non-binary person has to go by they them pronouns. Absolutely not. Use whatever pronouns are comfortable to you. That's it. It's all about what makes you comfortable and what you connect with. But yeah. Um but yeah, with me when it comes to like I for me, I'm lucky. I'm married to someone who fully accepts me for who I am and helps in ways that they can. You know, they understand that sometimes I need to leave social engagements early. They understand that sometimes I can't go to social engagements at all. Usually, I just tell them to go without me if I'm okay with staying home alone. And they will. Occasionally texting me, see how I'm doing. They understand my needs and accommodate me where they can. Actually, as an early Christmas present this year, they actually got me noise canceling headphones. They're like Bluetooth, and they connect to you know, um, phone and computer and stuff. And it's just sort of like I can listen to my music, and it's amazing. They are amazing headphones, and they help me so much when I'm out and about. But not everyone has that support in their life. Not everyone has that kind of person. You know? Like for me, I want to continue to push for autism acceptance so that more and more autistic people are accommodated in everyday life. I know that I'm in a privileged position when it comes to a lot of things. But I want to use this position to help people who don't have my privilege. Like, to be honest, I started my comic just, I, it was just a hobby. It was just, I wanted to do it, so I did it. You know? It was just something fun to do. But it evolved into a vehicle for me to do what I can to help. You know, and it's it it's not a lot, but it's something. It's just a comic strip, but it's what I can do, at least for now, especially with being here in China. You know, I I see autistic advocates out there doing so much more than me. And I hope I can be like them someday. But for now, I'll keep making my comics and doing these live streams and, you know, entering, it's sort of like answering questions and doing what I can, you know. And I don't know. I feel Justin, yeah, Garfield is just a comic once. Look at it now. Yeah, but with Garfield, as much as I love Garfield, you know, is Garfield isn't around to help, a minority or anything. Shimmer, you're doing great. You've helped a lot. I'm glad. Is what pushed me to turn this comic into something so much more than just a hobby, just a little comic about my life, was people. It was, you know, just the people who would comment, who would tell me their stories about their life, and just seeing that these people didn't have what I had. I grew up with a supportive family, with a loving family. No one in my immediate family is neurotypical, and we all helped each other because of it. We all connected because of it. It is just, I always had my sisters, my brother, my mom, my dad, you know, but with reading comments from people and stuff like that, I realize I'm I'm one of the lucky ones, you know. And so I want to use what I have, what I was given, and just sort of help where I can. Because not everybody, many people don't have what I had. And so I'm glad people really like my webcomic, and I'm so happy with what it has become. Um, Estelle, are your family differently neurodivergent? Yes, that does make sense. Yes. Is my family on my mom's side of the family? Um, you have bipolar. My dad's side of the family, you have autism. But there's also like OCD and stuff like that. So yeah, I have bipolar family members, um, anxiety, depression, of course, OCD, manic. It's just sort of, and then me and my dad are the only ones diagnosed autistic of my immediate family. I'm not talking nephews, nieces, or anything like that. Um, and so, because all of us had to struggle through our lives because of, our neurodivergences, you know, we all helped each other. And it really helped all of us get through some pretty bad stuff. But again, it's just like, I understand not everybody has that. And having that support system gave me strength. It gave me confidence, and like I'll say, like, my partner helped me through a lot of stuff, like giving me the courage to actually start posting my comic publicly. But had I not had some form of confidence, I wouldn't have been able to do it. My autistic purple world. How did you teach your dad that autism is not a bad thing or have an intellectual disability? That was so in my family, autism was never, or intellectual disabilities were never seen as a bad thing. My mom worked with people with intellectual disabilities, people who basically adults who couldn't take care of themselves. She worked in a home. And so growing up, these people were part of my life. I'd go visit my mom while she worked. And so I never had to teach any of my family that autism was okay. Like, when I got diagnosed, my mom was just like, oh my gosh, that explains everything, you know? Again, like, I came from a knowledgeable family. I came from a non-judgmental family. So, again, like, I think that's why, for me, is like, I hate gatekeeping so much. You know, I am very supportive of self-diagnosis and stuff like that. And I think it's just because I was growing up, we didn't, like, my family didn't gatekeep. I was accepted. You know, we were all accepting of each other. And I think that's what helped me learn to be accepting. You know, like, with my community, the doors are always open, so long as you're not a jerk. You know, is you don't have to be autistic, you don't have to be diagnosed autistic. My community is open to you. It always will be. But yeah, I should probably take this time to thank some special people. I would like to thank my dad, as always. As we were just talking about supportive family and everything like that. He's been a big help just through everything. And yeah, I'd like to thank him. I'd, of course, like to thank Dominic. Thank you so much. I hope you like your drawing. And, of course, I'd like to thank all my other patrons. I really appreciate it. You know, getting this kind of support from people. It means so much. Well, Fenos, hope we didn't go off track too much. That is okay. It is okay if we go off track. It happens. Especially in the chat. Just do whatever you want in chat. Have fun. You know, there's no strict rules okay, I should say there are rules, you know. You're welcome, Dominique. But Churrito must become a patron only if you can afford it. Do not become a patron if you cannot afford it. I understand the whole... Like, I've been in the situation where $1 is all it takes to not have overdraft fees. Justin, okay then, want to talk about Kirby? I always want to talk about Kirby. But yeah. Actually, back home in Canada, he's in storage right now, but I have a Kirby plushie. I love Kirby. He's so cute.
And it's the only character for a while you used in Super Smash Brothers.
Yes, Kirby is the best in Smash Brothers. I also like using Snake. But, yeah, Kirby is my main in Smash Brothers. But yeah, thank you all for coming. This one was a lot more personal. The last live stream, actually, I had to, like, do a whole bunch of research. But this one, I only had to do a little bit of research. So, because a lot of it was just personal. I could just type and type and type. But yeah, I write scripts for this, so yeah, type. Although I do sometimes go off script, but, you know, that's fine. It's all good. Anyways, thank you all for coming, and I will see you next weekend.